Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. This is Moreh Rapha'Yah. Once again, we are happy live this time that we are streaming on Facebook. Parashat Wayehi. Wayehi means he lived. This is the last parasha. This is the last Torah portion of this Shabbat on the book of Genesis, or the Bereshit in Hebrew. And just a little enclose into what this Torah portion of Parashat finalized the book of Bereshit or Genesis. It's when Jacob he reaches up to a certain amount of years in Egypt, in Mizraim, and he basically fulfilled the years that was accounted to him, and he dies. But it is very interesting on this Torah portion where the Creator Yahweh Sebaot implies a lot of things here, and it's interesting to get into to the root of all these things that happened in the past, because once again it yields to the future as well. So welcome to those who are joining us today for Parashat Wayehi. Let's start. Parashat Wayehi, he lived. We understand that the previous Parashat, the Creator talks with, implies a lot of things with Yosef, and how he needed to bring his father from the situation that they have in Canaan. But it is very important to understand this too, that all these things that happen, always there is a reason for it. And it's very important for us to understand that no matter what we do in life, when we come to the Torah, the Creator always have something in store for us. Now, here in Parashat Wayehi, we come to understand another portion where we enter into another phase. Let's, for the lack of terminology, but let's start chapter 48, verse 1. And it came to pass after all these things that it was reported to Yosef, behold, your father is ill. Now let's stop a little bit here. In the scriptures, in the whole Torah, this is the first time where the word ill or sick implies. Nowhere in the scriptures in the Torah implies that somebody was ill or sick. Here, Jacob is sick, is ill. He reached a certain amount of time, and so he called upon Jacob, and having taken his sons, and it was reported to Joseph, and your father is ill. So he did not come by himself, but he also brought his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. Manasseh happens to be the firstborn, and Ephraim happens to be the second, and brought them to Jacob. And in verse 3, very important, because in verse 3, he started narrating, Jacob, Israel, he started narrating all the things that the Creator did when he was young. All the phases that he went through. But we have to understand something very important, because everything that he is implying here, or he's telling about what happened in the past, is actually happening already, and also it will be happening in the future. But look at what's actually implying to his son Joseph. And he says, my Almighty appeared to me in Luz. Luz means Betil. Luz happens to be the first name of that place where he called upon Betil in the land of Canaan. And he said, and he blessed me. 17 verse 1 of Genesis of Bereshit, verse 1 says, Abram was 99 years old when Yahweh appeared to him, and he says, I am Shaddai, I am your protector. Walk with me and be perfect. Very important here, because I'm bringing verses so we understand what Jacob is actually implying to Joseph. Verse 2, he says, and I give my covenant between me and you, and I shall be and you will be a great nation. You'll be, I will increase your, immensely. Verse 8, 17:8 of Bereshit, and shall give you your seed, and after you your land, the land of Canaan. Now, let's stop a little bit here. We have to understand this, that all these things that Yaakov, Israel, is actually narrating to Joseph. Joseph kind of knew it already, but he's repeating it to him to remind him that the things that actually is happening at that moment is some of the things are fulfilled, and some of the things will be fulfilled in the future. That means when the Am Yisrael, the people of Israel, our forefathers, actually enter into Eretz Yisrael, which is the promised land. Now, something very important here that I don't want to forget. 48 verse 5. Bereshit 48 verse 5. And the two sons which are Ephraim and Manasseh are mine. That's what Yaakov said to, because remember that Joseph brought him to his father. And he saw those two kids, and he said these words, Ephraim and Manasseh are mine, just as Reuben and Shimon, they are mine. Now, let's stop a little bit here. Why did Yaakov imply these things? Why did he make that statement that he said Ephraim? He didn't say Manasseh. He said Ephraim and Manasseh. He put Ephraim first and then Manasseh are mine. Just as well as Reuben and Shimon are mine. Why did he say that? There is a good reason for it. First of all, Reuben happens to be the firstborn, and Shimon happens to be also the second. But you have to understand this. Something happened. Why did he not mention the other, the other kids, the other 10 perhaps? Because remember, he had 12. Why did he not mention the rest? There is something behind here, something that we have to dig into. Verse 6, let's read on verse 6. Your offspring, whom you shall bring forth after them, are yours. Meaning that he's adopting here Ephraim and Manasseh, but after that, whatever Joseph is going to bring forth later, he's going to be gotten more. They will be his, but Ephraim and Manasseh will be part of the 12 of the tribes of Israel. And there's something encoded here that we have to dig in, which are coming up very soon. Now, let's look up Reuben and Shimon, because this is something very important. But before that, I don't want to forget this. 48 verse 20. And he blessed them on that day, saying, in you, meaning Ephraim and Manasseh, he said, in you, Israel shall bless, saying, the Almighty make you as Ephraim and Manasseh. And he put Ephraim first before Manasseh. Do you see that here? Instead of, and that's what we're going to see next. But I do want to make a statement here that when the Aaronic blessing, and not just the Aaronic blessing, when the Hassan is actually blessing the congregation, he said that the Creator, Yahweh Sabaoth, make you as Ephraim and Manasseh. Where do you think he got it from? In the Avodah, in the service, when we do the Shabbat. He took it from the actual Torah, because the Creator said that you should bless them, you should bless Israel, he says, and make you as Ephraim and Manasseh. There is something encoded here that we will see in a little bit later. But let's go back, and he said the next verse, and let's look up why Reuben and is not included. He kind of was replaced. First of Chronicles 5 verse 1. Reuben happens to be the firstborn in Israel. He was the firstborn, but because he profaned his father's bed, his birthright was given to the son of Joseph, son of Israel. Do you see that here? Something very important here that implies that, and we go back into the Torah, which the Torah says very, very clearly that Reuben actually slept with Milk, I think it was, and so he happens to be one of the concubines of Israel, Jacob, and Jacob already knew it. That's one of the reasons why he was replaced, and Ephraim happens to take the place of Reuben. Remember this. It's always a reason for why the Creator made these things. Now, going back over here, verse 2, and Yehudah prevailed over his brothers, and from him came a ruler. Which is a ruler? The Mashiach, Yahushua. Although the birthright was Joseph, do you see that? Although the birthright was Joseph, and it's true, there's always a reason why the Creator always brings forth always Yehudah, or Jewish brothers, because the Mashiach happens to be the one who came from that lineage. But nevertheless, Joseph has the birthright as well. Now, Yahushua, or Joshua 17:17 says this, Yahushua spoke of Joseph's, to whom Ephraim and Manasseh, saying, you are not to have one lot. In other words, you need to have a little bit more than that, because remember this, Yahushua is remembering what long time ago was passed on, that between Ephraim and Manasseh, they had to have their portion as well too. And we can see in the book of Numbers, chapter 1, 2, 3, we can read on there that Ephraim and Manasseh had their portion when they got out of the land of Mizraim, Egypt, that they had their portion among the 12 tribes. So once again, we see that it's very clear that these two had their portion, especially Ephraim. 41:51 of Genesis, Bereshit. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, which means to forget, and the second he called him Ephraim, which means fruitful. Now, these two is very important, because these two in the name is included something very important. Something very important. The Creator, remember this, always makes something because there is a reason for it. It doesn't happen randomly whatsoever. 48 verse 4, going back to the Torah portion. And I will make you fruitful. Remember this, that the name of Ephraim means fruitful. See, I will make you fruitful, and I will multiply you. Second, and I will multiply. It will be multiple people. Three things: fruitful, multiply, and multitude of people. Here, the Creator is already implying a lot of things here, because here we already see the future of Am Yisrael, the people of Israel, our forefathers. Here we see the Mashiach. We see a lot of things unfolding into the future. 48 verse 7. And Rachel, or Rachel, died on me in the land. He's already telling the story. Remember that he's telling Joseph the story. So we're going little by little. And it says, and when Rachel died on me in the land of Canaan, in the way I buried her on the way there. And here, by the way, this is live, okay? We are live. This is not pre-recorded. This is live. I want you to understand this is not recorded 2 hours ago. This is live, okay? So this is 9:14 in the morning Pacific time. Those who are joining me, welcome in Facebook. And it continues on. Rachel died on me in the land of Canaan, in the land which I buried her in the way to Ephrat. You see that? Ephrat, which was called Bethlehem. Bethlehem, which means the house of bread. And this implies a lot with the Mashiach. But you see the definition here? The actual root of this word, Ephrat, which means parat, Parach, which means fruitful. Do you see that here? So there's something connected with the Mashiach here. Something connected with the Mashiach here, and something that we have to investigate. Why did the Creator include something in the Torah? Why is it? Why is it? What is it that He's trying to tell us, and what is it that He's trying to foretell for the future of Am Israel, the people of Israel? Now He continues on here, 35 verse 18. She called his name Benoni, which means son of my sorrow. Why did I bring this verse? Is because it's very important. Benjamin, his actual name was Benoni. Benoni means the son of my sorrow. But the father, Yaakov, called him Benjamin, which is son of my strength. Now, these two names are encoded something very important, encoded something that will happen in the future. And remember this, it doesn't matter what happens to Am Yisrael, the people of Israel, our forefathers, or us perhaps. The Creator always, every time He brings sorrow, is because something, we did something. We did something wrong. He has to bring judgment. And because of the judgment, there is always a teshubah, there is always a repentance. But the Creator, every time He brings the sorrow, the judgment, we need to bring ourselves repentance, teshubah. So this one implies something very important here, because the importance is for us to make a change. When we make a change, we strengthen ourselves, and that's why He's implying here. Here is, we can actually pretty much see something in the future that we will see in the scriptures. Look at what it says here. If you notice here where Benjamin was established into the camp, and where the Mishkan was, or the tent of the meeting, you see that where he was established. Let's look it up in Psalms of Tehillim 80 verse 2. It says that Ephraim and Benjamin, Menashe comes to us for salvation. Remember this. This is very important, because here we see that Ephraim, Menashe, and Benjamin were established in the other side, which is in the western. If you look up here on the right side of the Mishkan, or the tent of the meeting, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulon, it has to be on the east side, where it was the entrance of the Mishkan, or the tent of the meeting. But on the other side happens to be where the Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin was established. So there's something coded here that we have to investigate. Jeremiah 31:15, a voice was heard in Ramah. Where was Ramah? We're about to find out. Wailing, bitter weeping. Rachel weeping for her sons. Remember she was buried? This was something that we have to find out why the scripture says about Rachel, why is she crying, why is she weeping bitterly? Is because here is implying about how the Creator is using Rachel as a way of sorrow when our forefathers went into exile. And we are about to see a little map that I'm going to bring on, but I want you to see that first. And if you notice here, in the land of Israel, if you notice here where Rachel's tomb was, it was near Bethlehem, which is the house of bread, where the Mashiach was born. But do you remember that Rachel's tomb was there, but at the same time Benjamin was near too? But it is very important to understand, for us to understand, is that this place over here, this place, it actually happens when the exile of the first exile that was in the year 70, when our Jewish brothers in the southern kingdom, the house of Judah, went into exile to Babylon. And when they went into exile, they actually went by the tomb of Rachel in Bethlehem. They went by, and that's why we see where it says the scripture says that there the voice was heard in Ramah, wailing bitter, weeping for her sons. You see that here is because it was already foretold that the sorrow, the judgment was going to come, not just as well as the northern kingdom, Ephraim, the house of Israel, but also as well as the Jewish brothers, the southern kingdom, when he went to exile to Babylon. And this is something very important to acknowledge this, because here we see a lot of things that in not just, remember this, chapter 1, verse 9 of Ecclesiastes, those things that were will be again. In other words, the history is going to repeat itself again, and it happens to be again. But let's see the verses first. Jeremiah 40, verse 1. The word that came to Jeremiah from Yahweh, sent him from Ramah. You see that? Sent him from Ramah. Where was Ramah? Where we see the tomb of Rachel. And but not just as this. Remember that Jeremiah happens to be, that's what Jeremiah or Jeremiah is called, the weeping prophet, because he was always weeping the sorrow for the southern kingdom, Judah, because they were so disobedient, as well as the northern kingdom, but they went into exile because of that, because they were hard-headed. Now, their history repeats itself. Look at what it says here. Chapter 2, verse 18 of Shem Tov Matithyahu, or the book of Matthew. A voice was heard in Ramah, lamenting and bitter wailing, and great mountain Rachel, weeping for her children, would not be comforted because they were not. You see that? And this is quoting from Jeremiah 31:15. Here we see the history repeat itself again. Not just as well went to exile to Babylon, but again when they here, remember when Yahushua was already almost 2-3 years old, and he was at home already, not in the when the first was born, but when he was already 2-3 years old, he was already at home in his house, and a word came to him that Herod wanted to kill him, because this learned from the wise men that came from the east, that they saw the constellations and so forth, and so he knew what to do. And approximately, according to the book of Luke, that it was set from this point. So he sent between 2 to 3 years old to kill the children, and that's what they came, and that's why they fled to Egypt. Remember that. So that's what the fulfillment of that, also that prophecy was fulfilled again. Do you see that the history repeats itself again and again? Now, Leviticus or Wayehi 26:42. Then I will remember my covenant, my breed with Jacob, Yitzhak, Abraham, and not only Jacob, Yitzhak, Abraham, and I'm also gonna remember the land. That's why I always said it's not also about the people, it's also about the land. Why do you think in 1948, when the land of Israel in 1948 was acknowledged again as the state of Israel, and it was acknowledged in the United Nations and all the world again as a nation of Israel, a state of Israel, is because the land itself is very important. I know there is a lot of debate on the people and stuff, that they are Jews or not Jews, but in reality, if you notice, the Creator always make a remark on the land itself. Why do you think the Crusades, came to? Why do you think the Muslims try to take they're occupying today the land of there? where the temple, the Beit HaMikdash is located there. Why do you think they always want the land? It's because the land is very important. It takes a great importance for the Creator, and the Creator Himself said that not only He remembered the Brit, the covenant, but also with Jacob, Yitzhak, and Abraham, but He also is going to remember the land. And a very important remark. Here, I don't know if you see it clear, but here is the 12 tribes of Israel, and here you see that Reuben, which he did defile his father's bed. Not only is Reuben, but also we see Shimon, which also he lead the murdering of the remember when the sister, she was violated, she was raped, so he took upon to remember that they made a covenant that all the sons and the whole tribe, they made a covenant that they needed to make a brit milah, a circumcision, so they can marry their sister. And it just happened that they didn't. They took upon themselves to go and murder all of them. And Shimon happens to be the leader, and Levites too. So Reuben, Levites, and Shimon are in a way not included, but in a way the Levites, they didn't take any part in all the portions of the land, and that's why they don't have any portions. But they are in the Mishkan, they are in the tent of the dwelling, serving, but they didn't have any portions, and that's probably one of the reasons why they're not included. We can talk about that later in more detail. Now, 48 verse 13 of Genesis or Bereshit, and Yahusha took both of them with Ephraim in his the right hand and the left hand of Israel, and the Menashe on his left hand to the right hand of Israel. In other words, he crossed his hands like this. He crossed them like this. He crossed them like that. And Yahusha, his son, saw this thing as an evil, very displeasing, thinking that he was doing it wrong. He's supposed to be like this. He's supposed to put his hands like this, but he didn't. And he did it deliberately because he actually said these words. And he said, 48 verse 16, he blessed the youth, the two kids, and he may be called on them, may they like fishes grow into the multitude in the midst of the earth. Now, here is implying something very, very important. Here implying the future of Am Israel, the future of you and I, the future of the northern kingdom, and also as well as the southern kingdom, but most of it the northern kingdom, the house of Israel, Ephraim, all of us. Those who are called upon from the Creator, from the nations of the world, the 70 nations. And here, Yaakov is already implying a lot of things here. Here in Ephraim especially, and blessed them, and he's already implying something in the future. He says, like fishes growing to the multitude in the midst of the earth. He didn't say the land of Israel. He says the midst of the earth. That means all around the world, the 70 nations. Now look at what it says here. Genesis 48 verse 19. I know, my son, I know, he said. I know what you're trying to say. I know that you think I'm wrong, but I'm not. He also became a people, and he also is great. And yet, his younger brother is greater than he, and his seed is to become like the completeness, what it is said at the very end, the completeness of nations. Do you see that here? Here we see something super important, because here we see the future of Am Israel. Here we see the future of unfolding there into the future, and also to the present too. That we today, 2017, those who are called upon the Torah to serve Yahweh Sebaot with all his heart, getting rid of all the traditions, getting rid of all the man-man's laws, and just follow Torah, Torah Mitzvot, Torah Mitzvot. now we try getting a little bit of knowledge, understanding that here Yaakov is saying great words of the future and unfolding here into the present. That we are part of this, the words that he is implying here. But it's something very important because here, 48 verse 16, he blessed the youth, he says, and he called upon them. But he say it will be like fishes. Now, I want you to see the prophet Ezekiel 47 verse 6. And he said to me, Son of man, have you seen this? He took me to the river edge, and the waters are flowing into the east part of the land down into the Arabah, and the waters will be made sweet. You see that? And it will be come about that every living, it says, whatever the stream come, it will be life, and there will be every much fish, because there will be come to be there. And the fish were in a multitude, so up to the place by it. Now, if you read the whole chapter 47, chapter 47, just read on the whole chapter. Here, it's basically foretelling the future of Am Yisrael. But the northern kingdom, Ephraim, is literally implying here. We will see the verses next. But here is very important, because here we are looking upon that the waters were bitter. And remember that around the land of Israel, there were bitter waters, which happens to be today what is called the Dead Sea. And if you notice how it's describing where the waters were coming from the Dead Sea, but it was coming from the desert, from the Arabah, and then it came to the west side of the Mishkan, of the temple. Remember that? The Benjamin was from the west side, remember that? And also Benjamin and also Ephraim and Asher were in the west side, remember that? And they were coming bitters and went through the temple, which is coming from the east side, right? And it went through the waters, went by inside, and the waters were flowing, they were made sweet. And there were a multitude, it says a multitude of fish that you will encounter. A multitude of fish that you couldn't be counted. All sorts of fish. That's what it implies there. And it continues on that there were men gathering every source of fish in their nets. Just read on the chapter 47 of, I just bringing some verses here, but you can read on your time about those verses, that chapter that is implying a lot of things about us. Now, let's read on what Yeshua the Mashiach says. Look at what he says here. Matthew 13:47. And again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net which was put on the sea and took in every sort of fish. And when it was full, they took it on the sands, and they set it there, and they put the good, which is the kosher, into the vessel, but the bad or unkosher, they put them away. You see that here? Here the Mashiach is saying something, quoting from the prophets. He's not just saying randomly. Remember that he always fulfilling Torah. He always fulfilling what the prophets were already written hundreds of years before. Here is implying that the kingdom of heaven is like a net that a man took upon, and he said that he was pulling, a whole lot of fish, but he was taking it. Let's go back. He says it was taking the good. Which are the good fish? The kosher. We know in the Torah the good fish are the kosher fish, and the not good are the unkosher, which is those like, for instance, the catfish and so forth, those who have no scales, no things. But we can see it here that those are the kosher fish that he was putting on the vessel. Now, look what it says next. The right hand, on the right hand where where Israel, Jacob, was putting his hand on, there is a great meaning to it. And let's go in there. The right hand means strength. Shemot, or Exodus 15 verse 6, the right hand is power, is strength. In the right hand is favor. Tehillim of Psalms 16 verse 11, it's a strength, okay? And also is help. Psalms 20 verse 6. In this, there is a strength, favor, and help. Something very important over here. Now, Jeremiah or Jeremiah, look at what it says here, verse 31, chapter 31, verse 9, and shall be a father to Israel, and Ephraim, he is my first son. Once again, the Creator is always remembering through the prophets and also in the Torah as well that Ephraim happens to be the firstborn. Why? Because Yaakov made that happen. He made that happen because the Creator, allow him to do so. And there is something hidden here, once again. Why did the Creator implies that Ephraim is the firstborn? It is because, contrary to popular belief, in the Messianic groups, also in the Jewish groups, and also in the Goyim, in the Gentiles, and the Christians, there's this mentality going on that Judah, our Jewish brothers, they have the first word. Don't get me wrong, they do have the Torah, but when it comes to other things like the firstborn right, and guess who has it? We do. The Northern Kingdom. The Northern Kingdom. Remember this. Who has the calendar? The Northern Kingdom. We have the calendar. They don't. They have the lunar Babylonian calendar. They don't follow exactly what the Torah says. We have the firstborn right. Let's go back a little bit. Going into a little detail. For instance, who were the sons of Yisachar who knew the times and the seasons and how to tell Israel about the times? Where were they? In which kingdom? The northern or the southern? They were in the northern. We have the calendar. So once again, I can go on and on about these things, but we come to at the very end, the end of the day, we have the first right born. And it's not because we want it, it's because the Creator gave us that right to do so through the Mashiach. We're about to see that. Now here, Psalms 89, 27, I appointed him firstborn, highest on the kings of the earth. Here is implying to the Mashiach. Okay, here's, if you read chapter 89, the whole chapter is implying to the Mashiach over here. And he has a firstborn right, okay, because the Creator appointed to him, okay. But let's go back a little forward. Colossians chapter 1, verse 15. He says the likeness and the invisible Creator, Yahweh, and he's the firstborn of all creation. I want to spend 30 seconds on this. And the Mashiach, according to the whole Torah and the prophets, including the Brit Hadashah, that the Mashiach is the firstborn of creation. What does it mean? Well, it means that the Mashiach is the firstborn creation of the Father of Abba Kadosh, Yahweh Sabaoth. He's the firstborn of everything. He's the firstborn before the Malachim, the angels were, before the heavens and earth, before everything. He happens to be the first creation of Yahweh Sabaoth. That's why he's called the firstborn of all creation. See that? The firstborn of all creation. Before anything, he happens to be the firstborn. I don't want to go into detail a little bit more of that because it will be for next week's actually, and I will set up on a certain time. I don't know if it's going to be around Wednesday or Thursday that I will. I'm not sure if it's going to be live or pre-recorded. I'll post it, but it will talk about the the creation of Mashiach and where that he stand on the level of Yahweh Sabaoth, if it's at the same level or below that. We'll talk about those into detail. But going back into the Torah portion, the Mashiach happens to be the first creation, the firstborn. And Genesis, or let's go back into the Torah portion, Bereshit 48:21. And Yisrael said to Joseph, "See, I am dying, but the Almighty shall be with you and bring you back to the land of your forefathers." He already foretelling the future already here. He already telling him, "Here, I'm dying. My days have come to an end." But the Creator already spoke to me. He already foreseen the future already, that these things needed to be happen, but they're gonna bring you back to the land of our forefathers. Why? Is simply because, remember this, Yaakov and Yaakov, Yitzhak, they all knew that they about these things about Abraham. Abraham was given this land. This land needed to be given back to him, but they needed to go away for a while and then bring them back to the land of our forefather, which is Canaan, the land of Israel, Eretz Israel. Now, 50:20, verse 24. Here is something very important. 50:24. And Joseph said to his brothers, "I am dying, but the Almighty shall pakat." What does it mean? It means that you should bring you out of the land which he swore to Abraham, Yitzhak, and who else? Yaakov. Now, why did I put that on Hebrew there? What does it mean? Well, it means basically this. Abraham, I forgot to put the verse there, but I can give it to you later, or can you look it up in Bereshit, in the last chapters, where Abraham said to Joseph, the Creator, Yahweh Sabaoth, is going to pakat. Pakat means to visit you. To visit you. What does it mean? It's a coded word that they needed to be reminded in the future. It's a coded word that is encoded into the Hebrew, where they needed to know, kind of like a code, that this is going to happen. And pakat means that. Pakat means to visit. Now, he is telling his brothers, Joseph, in his dying bed, when he was ready, his time too, but he's saying to his brothers, pakat, the Creator is going to visit you and give you the land, Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. Now, let's go into pakat means. Pakat means to attend, to visit, to master, to appoint, but mostly is to visit. When Yaakov is about to die, also in the very last chapters, the Creator said to him that he already, if you look up there in the last chapters, the Creator said to Yaakov, he showed them the latter days today, and also he showed them the coming of the Mashiach the first time. But in the Talmud says that he was about to reveal this to his sons, but the angel Gabriel did not allow him to do that. And there is a good reason for it. But once again, I'm going to repeat it again. In the Torah says that he's about to tell them about the last days. Okay? But he didn't. And there is a good reason for it. Chapter 50:25. And Joseph made the children of Israel swear, saying, the Almighty, do you see that? Pakat, certainly visit you, and shall bring up my bones from here. Do you see that? He's again saying these words. 46 verse 4. And myself, I'm going down with you to Mizraim, to Egypt, and myself certainly bring you again, and let Joseph put his hand on your eyes. Uh, Again, here when Jacob, it's basically dying here. Joseph is basically, so his father's dead. His father's eyes were open, and he closed his eyes because he knew that he was already dead. But he's already seeing the future of Am Yisrael over here. But let's look up a little bit more close into the word pakat, pakat. Exodus 3 verse 16, or Shemot 3:16, go and gather yourselves the elders of Israel, which happens to be the elders. Remember this, that that in the people of Israel, they always have to be elders. They always have to be 70. Nevertheless, the elders happens to be the Torah teachers, the Torah researchers, the Torah wise men. And Jacob was a Torah learner, teacher. Abraham was, and I can bring another Torah portion, we can learn about that. Joseph was. All these forefathers were Torah. The oral Torah was not the oral Torah that we know of today. That was the real oral Torah that was passed on through generations and generations. But here, the elders of Israel, they were from already 400 years already passed, and Moshe went straight to the elders of Israel and gathered them, saying, Yahweh, the Almighty of your fathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, look at what it says here, appeared to me, saying, I have indeed, look at what it says here, the word pakat, visit you and seeing what is done to you in Israel. Before we read the next verse, the next chapters, here, remember this, Moshe did not know this. Why? Because he did not grow as a Hebrew. He was among the Egyptians. He was going to be the next Pharaoh. Remember that? He was with the Egyptians. But when he came to know the knowledge of the forefathers of the Hebrews, the Creator revealed to him the word pakat. They have forgotten this. The elders, they all forgotten this. And there's a story on the Talmud that one of the daughters of the sons of Israel knew that the word pakat, she knew the code pakat. And now let me give an example. Have you ever listened to an oldie song that you haven't heard for a long time? And then when you listen to it, let's say like in 1930s or 40s or 60s, but you haven't listened for a long time, and when you listen to that song, it brings you back memories. It brings you back where you were, what were you eating, and so forth. The same thing happened here. When Moshe learned about this code, pakat, and he brought it to the elders of Israel, and he said to them the word pakat. They didn't know what was the word pakat. So one of the daughters knew the word pakat because it was passed on to them, but she knew it. And when she heard the word pakat, he went to tell them he is the deliverer, he is the Mashiach, he is the anointed, he is the one who's going to deliver us. Look at what it's chapter 4, verse 31. And the people believe, Exodus or Shemot 4:31, and the people believed, and they heard that Yahweh, look at what it says, had pakat, see that again? Pakat, visit the children of Israel, and that he had looked on their affliction, and they bowed their heads, and they did on obedience. You see that? He ring the bell. The word pakat, he bring the bell that they already remembered. It was a code that the Creator is going to visit you again. They remember that word pakat. It was a coded word that they needed to remind thereof. And Moshe happens to be the one who actually brought it to them, because the Creator revealed to him about this word. Now, Exodus 13 verse 19. Look at what Moshe said. And Moshe took the bones of Joseph, with him, and he certainly made the children of Israel swear, saying, the Almighty shall pakad, you see that? Pakad, certainly visit you, and shall bring my bones here from you. Do you see that? Again, we see the word pakad, and you can look it up here in the Strong's Hebrew H6485. Strong's, look it up, please. We're not making things up. It's there in the Torah. We just have to look it up in there. Now, we see a lot of things that are unfolding here, and this parasha, like I said, is unfolding the future, the present, the past, the future, and the present. Now, going a little bit more forward, Zechariah, or the book of Zechariah, 10 verse 6, and now shall make the house of Yehudah mighty, and save the house of Yosef, the two houses, the northern, the southern, and shall bring them back, because I have compassion on them. Why did the Creator say this thing? What is the significance and the connection between what the things that we just saw in the Torah and now in the prophets? Is because, again, the house of Judah is in exile, and also the house of Israel. The Creator is making them strong again. The Creator is gathering them, bring them back to Torah, the two houses, especially the house of Israel, the northern kingdom, Ephraim, us, all of us, whoever is watching us, all of us, the Creator is bringing back again to Torah. And because at the very end it says, because He has compassion on us. He has rachamim, He has compassion to us. Now, Luke, the book of Luke, 1:67. Look at the word again, pakad. In Zechariah, which is the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, his father was filled with the Ruach HaKodesh, the set apart spirit, and prophesied, saying, blessed be Yahweh, the Almighty Israel, because, look at what it says, because He pakad, you see that? Visit and work the salvation of His people, and He has raised a horn of deliverance of us in the house of His servant David. You see that here? It was already, once again, fulfilling the promise of the prophets and also the Torah, that not only was going to do that, once again, we see the history repeats itself again and again. Again and again. Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 9 says that who it was, it will be again. History repeats itself again. We see that here with us. We see that here that He's bringing the Mashiach also. He's bringing the Mashiach, visiting in the first century. He came to us again in the first century, and He's fulfilling that promise also of bringing them back the Mashiach. Now, in his dying breath, Yaakov, he said, and Yaakov, Bereshit, or Genesis 49 verse 1, Yaakov called his sons and saying, gather together, so I declare you what is before you in the last days. Once again, what I was saying earlier, I want to imply something very important here. Remember where they were. They were in the strange land. They were in Mizraim, in Egypt. Who were the Egyptians? They were Goyim. They were pagan people. They worshipped so many idols, so many demons, that it was unbelievable. And Israel knew about that. He knew that the Creator brought them there to be saved, because through Joseph they were saved. But nevertheless, the Creator always keep His people. But Israel, Yaakov, knew that they were in a strange land. So by knowing that, and his dying breath, he gathered them together around the bed, and he said to his people that he was about to declare so many things. He was about to declare about the coming of the Mashiach, these latter days, these days, but he didn't. But it is very important, and some other time I will bring those verses about our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, Jacob, the prophets. They knew the the coming of the Mashiach, but they didn't know when. And I will bring another Torah portion. I will bring that. But here we see something very important. Every Hebrew knows about the Shema. Every Hebrew knows about the book of Deuteronomy or Devarim, chapter 4, verse 9. I'm sorry, 4 to 9. And it says, Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Boreinu, Yahweh Echad. Hear, O Yisrael, Yahweh our Creator, Yahweh is one. Where do you think that it came from? It came from this. It came from Yisrael. Remember that Yisrael, his sons were gathered around the bed. The Creator in the Talmud says that he gathered all his sons, saying that, Hear, O Yisrael, all the 12 sons. Yahweh, our Creator, is our Creator. Yahweh is one. He's not many in this nation. In this nation, they have so many Elohim, so many demons, so many deities. Yahweh is one. He reminded them in his dying wish, in dying breath, that Yahweh is one. He's not many gods. He is only one supreme being, almighty. And that's why one of the important things on the Hebrew mind is the Shema. The Shema is remind you that Creator is not many gods. It's not Elohim. Is our Creator, is our Boreinu. And therefore, he should be exalted as he is, Echad. Now, here, when he was about to die, of course, he said those things. And but I do, before we end this, want 10 more slides. Devarim, book of Deuteronomy, chapter 18, verse 15. Yahweh your Almighty shall raise up a prophet like me in your midst. From your brothers, listen to him. That's what Moshe said. And shall put my words in his mouth, and shall speak to them in command that I command him. And it shall be, verse 19, that the man who does not listen to the words which he speaks in my name, I will require of him. In other words, he's going to ask him, why did you not listen to his words, to the words of my prophet, to the words of my anointed, my Mashiach? Today, that's the problem today. The problem today is that we listen to people, we listen to evangelicals, we listen to a lot of that they proclaim that the Creator said this, and the Torah does not say that. That we listen to traditionalism, we listen to traditions of men, to man-made laws, and to religions, but we never listen to the Mashiach, to the Torah. We need to listen to the Torah. We need to listen to the Mashiach. We need to listen to what he says on his Torah. And it's something very important, because today, number one thing today in our Jewish brothers is that they don't learn Torah. They don't learn Torah. And it's sad, because today, instead of listening to what the Torah says, they don't. Today they only learn about the writings of the rabbis, but they don't learn Torah. Do you know, I'm going to repeat again, do you know that today most of our Jewish brothers, they don't know this verse in book of Devarim 18:15 through 19? Do you know that? They don't know it. They don't even, if you ask them, what does it say in the book of Devarim or the Deuteronomy 18, and they quote them that verse, they don't know that. The rabbis don't want them to know those verses. And there is a reason for it. It's because the Mashiach is included there. The Mashiach is included there. Look at what it says next. We almost closing. Book of John 1:21. Or Yochanan 1:21, and they ask him, Yochanan, of course, are you the prophet? And he answered, no. Who was that? Was the prophet? Who was the prophet? The book of Luke 7:16, and I fear to took hold of all, and they praise Yahweh, saying, a great prophet has raised up among us, and Yahweh, look at what it says, and Yahweh has, look, pakad, visit his people. You see that? In the first century, a lot of things were fulfilling. Torah was fulfilled on the Mashiach. Visit, pakad, and also the prophet in the book of Devarim 18. Those two things were fulfilled to the letter. I mean, it couldn't be any clearer than water and crystal. It continues on like this. 7:26. What did you go out to see? A prophet, he asked. Yeah, I say to you, more than a prophet. You see that? In the same chapter, the Mashiach is implying that they came to see a prophet. Yeah, it was a prophet, but it was more than a prophet. He happens to be the Mashiach. The prophets spoke about the great Mashiach that needed to come. Yaakov spoke about the Mashiach. Yitzhak spoke of the Mashiach. Our forefathers spoke. They knew about the Mashiach, but they didn't know when. And some other time we will talk about that. But here is implying the Mashiach himself is saying with his own words that he's more than a prophet. Hebrews 1:1. The Almighty, having all spoken many portions, many ways to the fathers by the prophets, now in these last days, or in these latter days, has spoken to us by whom? By the Mashiach. You see that? Now, before it was through the prophets, now the first century to now is through the Mashiach, Yahushua. First of Peter 2:12, having you behavior among the Goyim, the nations, good, so that when they speak against you as evildoers, let them, by observing your good works, your Torah, esteem the Almighty in the day of visitation. Do you see that? The day of visitation. That means, again, the history is going to repeat itself again, that the Mashiach is going to visit us again. And this visit is going to be a visit that's going to stand forever. And that's something, once again, according to the Torah. Pakad. Today we're living in an evil society where good things, they call it really bad. The bad, they call it really good. And it's sad because we see that as the days goes on, everything is turning so evil. And that's why the things that we do, they call us as weirdos. Not knowing that we're keeping Torah, but the weird things that they do, they call it good, they call it cool, and it's not. It's not in the standards of Yahweh Sevaot, his Torah. Book of Acts 3:19, make teshuvah, or turn around, or repent, therefore, and be turned, so your sins may be blotted out, and the times of rest come to you before the presence of the Mashiach. You see that? And make teshuvah, repent, turn around. It's very important because today, in these latter days, we needed to do so. Repentance is not preached today. Teshuvah is not preached today. Today is more like make money through this. Make money if you donate. Make money if you give a tithe. But they forget about making teshuvah, which is very important to the Creator. Acts 3:21, whom heaven truly needs to receive unto the restoration of everything. Unto restoration of everything. The Mashiach is not going to come back again until all things are restored. The name of the Creator needs to be restored, is restoring as we speak. The name of the Mashiach is being restored as we speak. The Torah calendar is being restored. We are keeping the Torah calendar as the Torah intended to, as the Yahweh intended to. And we are, remember, the northern kingdom, Ephraim, has the firstborn right. And we have that right because the Creator gave it to us. We being empowered to do this the right way. Our brothers, our Jewish brothers, are doing this so, but it's going to come to a point where we're doing it so to the point where they're going to see it as a jealousy. Remember the parable, the prodigal son. Remember that in the parable, the prodigal son, the younger brother, he repented, he came back to the father, and the older brother, which is Judah, remember, the younger is Ephraim, us. The older is Judah, our Jewish brothers, and the older brother saw that this was given to the younger Ephraim, and he was jealous. He was jealous. Today is happening the same thing. We need to do things better. We need to be in the Kedusha. Kedusha means be set apart. Need to be set apart closer and closer to the Creator. When we do so, when we do things the right way, the Torah way, then our Jewish brothers are going to see it as jealousy. But that's okay, because it needs to be happening like that. Ending 3:22 of Acts. When Moses indeed said to the fathers, Yahweh your Almighty will raise up to you a prophet among your brothers, one like me, and you shall hear him according to all these things, whatever he might speak to you. It's quoting from the book of Devarim 18. And he shall be that every soul, whoever shall not hear, that the prophet should perish from among those people. You see that here? Here is very important, because today we need to listen to the words of the Mashiach. The Mashiach is basically speaking about the Torah. The Torah speaks about what Yahweh says. You see that the level of things. If you go to the book of Revelation chapter 1, when Yohanan, the Revelator, you see that, read chapter 1 of Revelation, and he says the revelation that was given to Yohanan, that was given from Yahweh, that gave it to the Malach, the angel, take it back, from Yahweh that gave it to Yeshua, to the Mashiach, to give it to his angels, to the angels that gave it to the Yohanan. You see the level of authority there? Today we have the Torah. We need to empower this to us, to our brothers, to our sisters, to our families, to our spouses, that today is the latter days. We need to listen to what Mashiach speaks there in those words. Need to listen to what Torah says. If we don't listen, the Creator is going to come to an account to us in these latter days. Come to an end on this Parashat. I'm so happy that you guys are broadcasting, that you're joining us on this broadcast. And we are going to bring another Parashat next Shabbat. And that will be the first Parashat on the Sefer, or the book of Shemot, the book of Exodus. So I'm so happy that you guys are joining us, and we look forward to have another Parashat, another Torah portion. And in the middle of next week, I'm going to bring another lesson. I'm not sure if it's going to be live or pre-recorder, about the origin of a Mashiach and where they stand on the level of authority. Shabbat Shalom to all of you, and enjoy this great Shabbat that the Creator is giving us. Shabbat Shalom.